hopefully going to be that, you know, one-stop podcast where they know they're going to come on and hear real information, not just the fluffy surface chit-chat. It's actual real life scenarios and real life feelings and stories and experiences and solutions as well. Welcome back to the Lessons podcast. Always say it, so excited, but we've had a pretty crazy week this week, and we're excited to just sit down and have a real conversation with an incredible couple that we're getting to know and talk about relationships, because relationships, I feel, is a topic couples are, I don't know if embarrassed is the right word, but they're shy to be vulnerable and get real with the struggles that come along with being in a marriage, having kids, and going through the ups and downs of changing as an individual and as a couple. But we want to open up that conversation.
And it's always a juicy topic to talk about, isn't it?
So today's podcast guest is Kate and her beautiful partner, Henare, which I'm really, really excited to chat to. Kate was our number 3 podcast guest, and we got such incredible feedback, super open, super vulnerable and honest. And that's what we're all about, not the little fluffy chit chat. We want to get deep and we want to talk about some real topics. And we're really excited to have you guys on board. So welcome.
Hello.
Thanks for having us here.
Thank you.
You are so welcome. So let's dive straight into it. Do you guys want to tell us how long you've been together, some of the adventures you've been on together, where you're located at the moment, just a little debrief of who you are as a couple?
Oh, we always have a little giggle at that, because over a 15-year relationship span where I feel like we've lived multiple marriages in the one marriage, we had a little giggle because it's like, oh, what, you know, many adventures, both ones that we can tell and ones that we possibly won't. But so we've been together for 15 years and we've been married for 11 years and we've been progressively happier over that time, which means that we probably didn't start in a particularly great space when we first met.
We got 2 kids, one's 17, she's just about ready to leave home.
Oh.
And we got a 12. So she's scared and excited about her next steps, but we're supporting her independence as she learns to leave the house. And we've got a 12-year-old boy who's downstairs getting tutoring right now. So that's the basics of our relationship. 15 years together. I met Kate, I was playing professional sport in New Zealand, and we had a nightclub that was sponsoring us, and I was so drunk I couldn't see her till the next morning. And that's how our relationship started, in a whirlwind of excitement.
Yes.
Oh, I love that. So let's rewind to when you guys first met. Obviously, Kate, we discussed in our last podcast your journey, and you guys met at what age was it?
23.
22?
22? Yeah, and I was maybe 27.
But you said.
But I said I was younger because, you know, that's just part of the deal.
Yeah. 22, 23, 27. Yeah.
Yeah, I met her in a nightclub. I actually met her. She lived a kilometre from me her whole life. I'd never seen her. And I knew her brother quite well. And I met her in a nightclub after a night out with the boys. And the next morning when she spoke to me in very articulate and beautiful words, I really stepped back and thought, man, this woman has something to offer me, like more than just the physical stuff. She had a personality. She was lovely. She was articulate. And for me at that time, as I was heading into my 30s, I thought, man, this is someone special.
And when you guys were first got together, Kate, we spoke about how there was financial troubles, but what you decided to do with what funds you had was invest into your relationship. I find that so inspiring, because not many couples, even this day and age, will invest in their relationship. They think it means they're broken, or they just give up before they've even given it a real go. So how did that change and impact your life, investing everything you had into your relationship to what it is now?
Yeah. Even our wedding day, so we took the money that we would have spent on a flash wedding and we invested it into ourselves. So we had pre-marriage counselling, and we put a lot of time into like the future we actually wanted to create together. And so we invested there rather than the beautiful big day. But we had a stunning day, but it was more like a BYO afternoon tea, but we really created a marriage afterwards. We, even on our wedding day vows, I remember the vows were so big that we said to each other, we actually, at that point when we were saying them, they were definitely aspirational goals. So we had to, and we've spent, I'd say, the last decade and a half or the last 11 years, like learning how to become the people that we told each other, look, I promise you I'm going to be kind of this person. It's taken it that long to learn how to become those people.
Yeah, so growing up in Flaxmere, for me, I was surrounded by violence, gangs, and all I knew was pain. So I made a promise to Kate when we first got together. I said, I will be committed through the duration of our relationship to be a better husband and father. When I said that, I didn't realize the power that it would have in showing me who I wasn't. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So when I spoke that as a promise, what happened and came up for me was everything that was beside that. Everything that came up for me was the violence. Kate sent me to the police station. I've been suicidal at times because that's the thing I had experienced. So in that promise, over 15 years, it was continually living into that promise that I made to Kate to have our family function beautifully together, which is something I never experienced. My mum nearly died in a gang-related incident. My dad was a boxer and he used to beat the crap out of me once a month. And so my history of bringing that to Kate was a history of violence. And so over that promise and over 10 to 12 years was a recommitment to what I needed to create for our family. So we've been through the highs and lows, including police in our house, the real once were warrior stuff. And then we're in this beautiful space of me now honoring Kate, acknowledging her, kissing her feet and caressing her and saying, how can I help you? Which is something, it's not something I never thought I'd be able to do. And it nearly took my life a couple of times because the history was sometimes more powerful than the intention, but I kept reaching for the intention of being a great father and husband. And eventually, after about 12, 13 years, I got there. But it nearly cost me my life because it was something so far from what I experienced that I didn't know who I could be if I was going to be this loving Hollywood movie father, that you see on movies.
Yeah.
So how did you change that dynamic? How did you change it from, obviously that's a huge shift in personally, but also as a couple. And I know ourselves, like we're changing as people all the time. And like you said at the start, we're almost probably divorced our last relationship, our last marriage and restarted a new one just recently. We just hit 10 years 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I know.
So I got my badge underneath here.
But who we are, as you guys know, you do go through so many different seasons and things change so much from every year and every new stage, and there's so many challenges along the way you've got to navigate through.
So how did you change that dynamic?
Yeah.
Like what's been the biggest shift in creating that passion and love and understanding as well?
Do you mind? Is it right?
Yeah,
okay. So when I made a commitment so I'm going to explain this. When I made a commitment with what I said in language, I said it outside of myself. Then what I did is consistently honored that commitment no matter what. I was willing to die, literally, to honor that commitment to Kate. So I had a history that was pulling me gravitationally back to violence because that's all I knew. But there was a commitment in my heart that kept pulling me forward. So it was like, they call it in identity shift work, an oscillation between the old and the new. So the old continued to pull me back, but the new was there in my word, and I kept on honoring it, even though it took me to the depths of despair, of suicide, and all sorts of things. If I could just construct a family life in the future that was something worth dying for, then I could really live. So in honoring, basically it was just an honoring, like honor what I said and I'll stay committed to that no matter what. Nothing will deviate me from that, not even death. And I'm proud to say that I think, Kate,
You instantly get a gold star, darling.
Love that.
So it was, and just like you guys said, you have to recreate relationships, otherwise you live into the past. Mm-hmm. So me and Kate are consistently letting go of what needs to be let go of to recreate a new future. Mm-hmm. So we never prescribe what should be happening in the future. We commit to something. Like she has been, the event that we're putting on has been created as a new commitment to uplift us, not only in our business, but as a couple. Who are we together when we're really being pushed and pressured, and who are we? Have we got the resilience that we didn't have in the past? And what we've found, which has been most beautiful, is that our commitment to each other is the strongest I've ever seen it.
That's my favorite part about She. It's funny that out of everything, one of my most favorite bits is what it's revealed within our marriage, which is complete stability and the most strongest, beautiful foundation that we dreamed of all of those years ago, but we had no idea how to pull it off. We had to become the people.
Yes.
And so she has rocked so many different foundations. We've had so many obstacles thrown at us. The ones that we, you go into like a big next venture and there's going to be obstacles, but the obstacles have been unexpected from so many levels. And what it's shown to us is, holy crap, we are so damn proud of the marriage that we've got.
And you do have to build that foundation over and over again. And it's so right what you were saying about your childhood, how you were pulled back to violence. It's like what you were brought up with is just, it impacts you so much as an adult, and it takes so much work to retrain the brain and the way of thinking and your patterns and your habits and the way you deal with situations. Like even with me and Steve, like yelling for me, I was growing up in a household that's the way we communicated. We yelled, and I felt like as a child, I didn't have a voice. It was constantly told to shush, shut up, be quiet. And I felt like I had to yell to be heard. So sometimes if we're in a disagreement or I'm trying to get my point across, my voice starts to get louder and louder. And Steve's like, you don't have to yell at me for me to hear you. Like I actually do the opposite. I switch off when you're yelling at me. And that's something I have to constantly work on, because you get pulled back into just what you know and what was your normal for so many years.
And so you guys obviously work together in She and
many things, all your programs.
Have you found that that's been challenging at times as far as working together?
Yep, absolutely, particularly more so in the early years. And it's been a progressional journey to learn how to work together, especially in a business like what we are, when everything's so exposed. And also we've got two different personalities and big personalities, and they at times we've learned that they're very complementary, but we didn't experience them as complementary at times. When I've got a very kind of linear structured brain, he's super creative and outside of the box. Sometimes we'd be on stage and we'd have to work stuff like that out. So
yeah, we created a program when we first started, and it was called Foundations of an Empowered Life. So we would be saying, and how you really create an empowered life is you do, and we'd say the steps, and then we would turn the camera off and start yelling at each other. You got that part wrong. That part was wrong. And then we'd go back and switch it on and go, and then
so this is a decade ago.
We would create it, and then so it was a progression. The idea of creating a life was there, but we didn't at that time have the skill set to have that life. So that as we've gone along, we've consistently built the skills to have the life that we've created now.
I love that. And also like acknowledging and appreciating your partner's strengths. We're the same. I feel like we really are a power couple, but we've got such different strengths. And when I would step on his toes and try to control or say, have an opinion, be like, oh, don't do that. It's like once we really defined our roles and appreciate each other's strengths, you really can work so well as a team. And it's so awesome when you've got opposite strengths and personalities, because you've got four eyes looking at everything differently. And I think that can really create some beautiful magic and passion together in your work relationship.
And it really is so important to get it right. Like life is so challenging when you've got a rocky relationship at home and trying to, especially when you're working business, trying to kick goals, have kids, etc.
Everything's affected when you're not connected or you're disagreeing or you're in a yucky energy. I feel like if we have a disagreement, and we're a lot quicker at working through it and resolving it, catching it, but a few years ago, like it could affect us for 2 weeks, be sulking around, and that affects all the people around you, your day-to-day energy, your motivation, your sleep. When your foundation is solid and you've got a good foundation, a good understanding, it really helps everything just flow, right?
And not just that, on the opposite of that, when you're firing and you're connected and you're bouncing off each other and you've got the support, but you're also challenged and pushed as well. Because a good partner is not just there for support, it's also there to give you a kick up the butt as well and challenge you and make
in a loving way.
A bit of catch and pass. And that's what I really love about us too. Like we're not always on the same level. Like sometimes someone's really firing and going, and the other one needs a bit of a kick up. But when we're both up there and our states are high and we're inspired and challenged, you can really achieve some amazing things. And I really believe it's a foundation for a successful life.
Relationships are everything, aren't they? It really is beautiful to have a strong relationship that you're connected and can share all the ups and downs with.
And one of the things we connected with a lot on our last chat session with you was talking about how you guys navigate as individuals and bring that together as a relationship.
Let's talk about that.
So you guys, last time we spoke, you spoke about how I guess you're going through a shift in your own personal life and you starting to rediscover who you were as a person and vice versa. And then so just start with that and tell us how that eventuated to how you live your life now.
Well, the only thing I can think of in answering that question is Kate had always come into my world. She had never had a world of her own from a kid. She was brought up with a dad who was alcoholic and violent, so he dictated the world that they lived in. Then she meets me, and being a very strong personality, she never had that world. She had a child at 19, 20. So her whole life has been her fitting into other people's worlds. So recently, the recreation is, what would it be like for me to see Kate recreate a world and me to fit inside of that? So the world of Kate, we're recreating a world where Kate is gotten and given to. And what you're saying right now is that during this recreation of what Kate's world involves, I'll take the kids away for 7 days so that she can be with herself and do whatever she needs to do. What we're trying to do is fit into her world now so that who she is the leader of our family as she's created the leadership of she. In doing that, like you said, we then, well, like when I get every month I need to go away for at least 2-3 days. It used to be a week, but I need to go away for at least 2-3 days. Kate then goes away for her time. I also take the kids away from Kate's space and leave her for a week, did we? A week where she was totally doing what she wanted to do and be. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? But the main point of this is that we are now stepping into Kate's world where she gets to see who we can be for her.
How did you find that as a masculine male?
Bro. I've been lying in bed some days. I've been eating fucking McDonald's. Excuse my language. I've been eating McDonald's. Because that's not what I usually do.
Yep.
And Kate's been so generous in saying, it's all right, keep following me. So she's got all these health hacks. We've got them, now that we're in her world, we've got grounding sheets, we've got all these things, we've got infrared, we've got red. She's introducing me to all this stuff, and it was so full on that one of my healers said to me, you need to do something for you. Because I, as a masculine man, as a very alpha type man, I found it very difficult. And again, making a commitment to Kate, I wanted to know what it was like to be in a relationship where she was shining just as much as me.
It's been a systemic shift.
Yeah, she would pat me on the head. It's all right, little fella. It's all right. You just calm down. Go do your boxing, or go to kickboxing, or go sit down. Go do what you need to do. Have some chips, and then just settle. So that stage, bro, exactly has been because you want to talk about depth. Depth is seeing who we are when we're challenged with new things. Like if you put me in a ring, I ain't got a fight. I can do it fine. But you put me in a relationship with a woman that's telling me how we're going to live our life for the next 10 years. I start running for the hills.
So I want to mention this conversation and say the same thing, but look at a system. So a relationship is a system, and it's one part works like this, the other part works like that. We've got agreements here at this level, and if one part of that system alters, it alters everything. There's a shift, an equal and opposite reaction on the other side. And so one of the I would say the key core things, there's a number of them, but one of them that Henare and I have got really clear at over the last decade is the systematicness of when something shifts within our relationship. So we're really aware of that, that as I'm shifting, for example, then there's going to be a shifting with Henare, and so we create some space and permission to allow that shift to happen without making it wrong, because Henare needs to go through whatever he needs to go through to do whatever updating he needs to, so that he's having his own journey. Like I've got my journey, Henare's got his journey, but then we have a relationship journey. So it's kind of like there's 3 relationships within it: me to me, him to him, and then us to each other. So we really do create intentionally, and we've done it for so long that I'd say it's an area we're pretty damn masterful at now, is creating space. We're not masterful at life, but we're masterful at this kind of thing of creating space to allow each other to do our tweaks as we're shifting up. And it's something that we started just so damn early on, but it's really important because I see a lot of times when one person changes, and I see this in relationships, the fallout on the other person as they're kind of updating, often that's made quite wrong and people just don't know how to navigate it. And one person's going to lose their grip. It can be the person who's growing, they lose their grip and they come back down to make everything okay again. It's like I come back down to where I know the agreement is safe. And then it's kind of like things soothe, you know, like they settle down again. But that's shit, because then people aren't actually growing. You know, my commitment during this phase, like I said, the relationship me to me, is to continually strengthen the relationship of me to me during this phase. And that Henare's journey in this is independent of mine. And so I don't need to go over there and fix it and support him, but I can love him and care for him and have compassion for at times when he's going through that. Because trust me, at other times in a relationship, it's been the other way around. Hen's been growing and I've had to deal with whatever I've had to deal with. But it's funny because Henare taught me through in those moments, back when we did that he would grow independently of me and he wouldn't bring himself back to mollycoddle me in those moments or to try and soothe me. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
So I had to have my own backbone in those moments. And I think that's what creates a really beautiful independent relationship where both people are really free to grow together but also grow independently.
Do you find that keeps a really big charge in your relationship too? Like, I'm a big believer of polarity, like masculine, whether it's masculine, feminine, or positive, negative. Do you find that charge stays alive that way, or do you find that sometimes it gets in the way? Because, like, say for a masculine male, Ashy's, we can talk about us, but you're attracted to when I'm leading the ship, being controlling finances, being more masculine, right? When that polarity's shifted, when I'm not motivated, you can feel that polarity. When that polarity is not there, we tend to get a bit blah, I would say, and there has been times in our relationship, and more so recently, where Ashy has stepped up as the dominant career person, because it's just the way that our relationship has gone. It never started off that way. I was definitely the leader, the CEO, the boss, and I really struggled with that change for a while there. I really and what I was unconsciously what I was doing was I was sabotaging our relationship by trying to pull her back down. And that's why I was resonating with what you just said there. Because I didn't know why I was doing it, but I didn't feel good for me that I wasn't the breadwinner. I wasn't, and we've had to learn to really work with that polarity shift and sort of, I don't know. I
really resonated with that as well, because sometimes I would be torn, like, oh, do I just go back to where it's comfortable and avoid that growth and that, am I outgrowing him? It was a tough period because I felt like I was upsetting him by stepping up and by growing, and am I taking his masculinity away? I was like, no, it's just a new way to navigate and support each other through. And I could be compassionate for where he was at, but I also need to like embrace this growth.
Well, and for me, I went, I've got to step the fuck up. Like instead of playing small and trying to bring down, I'm trying to go to another level. And I was playing on the
same
small.
Team.
So still on the same team, but like I wasn't playing to my fullest, you know, I wasn't making myself and because I know I had it in me, but I was just playing small. So how are you guys, like, especially for you, Henare, how did you navigate that polarity shift? Because you've gone from the breadwinner, the man, the leader in the ship, the king of the castle, to the opposite, which is neither all bad or good, but it's a different energy.
Yeah, so I call it, people call it depression, but I told people I had a spiritual awakening. So after Kate, we switched, maybe within a month, I woke up one morning and I had no energy, no motivation.
Yeah.
So people call it depression. So for 3 months, I couldn't get out of bed. I would get up out of bed. I would get the kids off to school, but I just couldn't do anything. Kate would make me go to cycling classes. I had a mate who runs Bali MMA. He put me in a fight, but nothing. I was trying to eat McDonald's. I did everything. But what I realized is I needed to accept that I was going through a systemic shift in my identity as a man.
Yes.
And the thing is, I was lucky enough to have created so much support from Kate that she could just look at me in the bed and say, I'm here for you, honey. The last month of that became suicidal. Like the suicidal thoughts started slipping and you're not good enough. And so I had to go into that, like as a man, fully naked and stripped bare, masculine. So I went into there, and me and Kate just sat here one day, and I just cried. We just cried together. I said, the suicide's coming, and we just cried. But it wasn't a thing that we were making wrong. It was a progression that I needed to go through to know myself on the other side. I always put it down to the hero's journey. In any movie, we don't love the hero because they don't go through the obstacle. We love the hero because they find out who they are through the obstacle.
So true.
So,
For sure.
Yeah, so for me, I went into depression. The kids didn't know, but they could feel it. I basically did nothing but get out of bed. I watched movies, Netflix. And if you ever want to, I can tell you all the top Netflix things. And then at the end of it, after 3 months, I woke up one morning and I was ready to start again. But the difference is, people were saying, oh, depression, suicide. I was like, no, this is the context for it. A systemic shift of identity is going on at depth. If I need to know myself beyond that, I've got to accept what's happening for me, not judge it. And at times I did, but I learned to accept going through that. And what it brought out for me was like the warrior, but like the peaceful warrior. Like when I go down, I didn't have to pretend anymore. Like before, I was pretending I was the coach and I was strong. I feel now like when I go somewhere, I can just be who I am and still have that strength come through, but not as a force, as a power. Yeah, after coaching SAS soldiers all the way through to gang members, professors, lawyers, doctors, I've coached every celebrities. That type of power, I started inflating who I was. My ego started inflating me. And then what happened is, because I was so inflated, there was a part of me that says, no, you come back to being the loving husband that you were committed to. And so the depression came. I got through that. We recreated a relationship, and now we're charging forward in this new future, more settled. So every day now, usually I get up and I drive. I know how to get 50 people, 100 people, 200 people. I've done it before. But now I sit back, I relax, go do a sauna. It's weird because I'm not used to it. And then come back refreshed so that I can complement what Kate needs and have strategic conversations in different areas of the business to get things growing, rather than be the full general, be the support in the background helping her and what she needs to grow.
And have you become more the carer at home as well, or is that more of a shared role between you two?
It's switched. So the children come. Bailey says to me today, her boyfriend's not here, so she's like, can you go to the gym with me at 2:00? And I'm like, okay, we'll look at doing that. And Zion's like, Dad, you got to come surfing today. So that is a priority.
The kids go to Henare now.
Yeah, they come to me.
It's completely opposite of what it used to be. But he's actually, just in what Henare just said, that's been always his barometer of success, is how happy am I and the kids.
Yeah.
And so that's been his KPI almost.
Yeah.
And so for many years, he used to ask us at the end of each day, he would ask me, how would you rate my husbanding out of a scale of 1 to 10?
Happy wife, happy life.
Yeah, and he'd want an honest answer, and then he would say, so why'd you give me an 8? And so, or why'd you give me a 4? Or why'd you give me a 9? And then so that would be what he could tweak, and then he would ask each of the kids every night, how was I today as a dad on a scale of 1 to 10? And they would, they would be so brutally honest, and they would say, well, next time you need to improve this. And so every day he would ask that, and that's always been his KPI. He doesn't ask us in recent years, but he says he judges it by how twinkly our eyes are.
Oh, that's beautiful.
How good he is a man.
I love that you guys have really navigated, we call it the dance, hey? It's like constantly figuring out how to move together through the bumps and through the ups and downs. But I love that. I want to do that as a wife. How did I wife today, babe? How did I mum today? Because we can always improve, right? And I know when I'm not a good energy or I've said something I didn't mean. Like, it's that feedback is important.
Yeah, you do it so much in business to all your staff.
Yeah, why would you not do that to your significant other? Love that.
That's a good tip.
Now let's talk about kids. So many parents really struggle when children come into the picture. For so many years, it's just all about your partner. You have all the time in the world. You're making them feel like the king or queen. Then this little human comes along, and it's all about the little human. And, your sex life might go out the window for a little while. Your priorities, your time, your energy, your moods. It's a big adjustment. How did you guys find bringing kids into the picture affecting your relationship?
Yeah, well, I think one, I would say when I met Henare, I had a 2-year-old.
Yes.
So that was kind of a different place to start from. And then also with the kids, like Bailey almost leaving home now, we've been through so many different seasons. And like now we're actually at the opposite phase where we often have weekends to ourselves because the kids are at their friend's house, and we're looking at each other going, this is weird. Like, I've been a mum now for the last 17 years. It's the first time we've really had that freedom. But yeah, it completely changes things. I remember I think that just adds such a level of pressure, kids, to relationships that goes unacknowledged. Henare and I were on a New Zealand tour. And so we were like, every weekend we're doing these big transformational workshops, like so much pressure, right? Most people would like probably argue during that. We didn't argue once during that. Hen was sick during it. Like, there was so much pressure. Not one time did we have any level of argument. It was just so smooth. We came back here and we were, I think, about 6 hours back with the kids, and we had our first argument. And so I think that goes to show, like, it really does. Kids just do add an extra amount of pressure because you've got these little humans with upsets and anger and emotions that you have to kind of navigate with your own. And so I think I would say it's given us, though, a lighthouse to continue to navigate towards with our growth. And without that, I think it's had us be super intentional because, so I'm going to swing back to what Henare said right at the start when he said I called the police that night, which was early in our relationship. The reason why I called the police is because I felt the weight of responsibility as a mum with children in the house and what my commitment was with the family we were going to have. And, you know, I was brought up where upsets and abuse or anything like that was tolerated. And there was no line drawn in the sand. So I think for me, it gave me the biggest level of commitment I could have ever had to be responsible for two little humans, that it was like, no, we're going to have a line in the sand. I'm not tolerating on this on any level. And so that was scary because I did that for the kids. And so in that, I had to go hands off and be willing to let go of everything that we had worked for together, both in our company, but also in our relationship, and be willing to lose it all. But I'd be happy living in a caravan. I remember thinking this at the time. If I was living on a caravan with the kids and we had a happy life and I lost it all, if that was worst case scenario, but our standards were high, I'd be happy. So as much as what I loved Henare, it was done out of the biggest amount of love for our family. And it was an invitation. So yeah, kids, they add that extra pressure, but I feel like they also give you a bigger level of commitment.
And also kids are the unconscious barometer of parts of ourselves that we're not willing to deal with.
True,
so
yes.
If you're looking at what I found as a father, if I'm looking at a part of my daughter that I'm totally irritated with, usually she's taken that on as a part of her personality that she's willing to express, that I'm not willing to express. So kids are like gods. They will show us our greatest strengths and loves, and they'll show us our deepest weaknesses. And so what I learned is that if I'm irritated or annoyed at a part of my kid who's absorbing parts of me through osmosis and living, then I'm really irritated at something that I'm not dealing with in myself. Now, that's a big question for parents. Most parents just want to tell their kids to go over there, watch TV, just read a book. Look, we're not talking to you. What we've made a commitment to as our children get older is consistently speaking to them as if they're already adults, as if they're ready growing. We don't talk to them like our parents, oh, you cute little. We never talk to them like that. We talk to them as if they're someone willing to hear and learn stuff. And then when our family was stable, learning that when they were bringing parts of their personality that irritated us, that meant that they, on some level, were showing us back to ourselves through the parts of ourselves that we didn't really want to see. People say I should go to India for my spiritual awakening. I say, have kids and you'll be awakened every single day. Yeah. So me and Kate's goal is always to grow the internal family first so that they shine, because it's easy to go out there and say, hey, I made this amount of money, I did this, because everyone's doing that shit. But if we do the grounding of our family first, then we step into the world more humble and available for people when they need us. Not coming from, hey, if you want this million or this car or this thing. No, that shit. We're not into that, even though we like that stuff. We're into, hey, if we can help you foundationally grow, that'll create a strong foundation for you to do anything in business.
I would like to know that you're a little bit further down the road of us where we've only got a 3-year-old right now. So, but when it comes to discipline, so, I mean, you put out a post the other day about whether you put out to parents whether you thought physical physical
Smacking.
punishment or smacking was, and what was the result of that?
Most said yes. It was like 60 something percent said yes and 40 something said no. And it just shook me, really shook me, because I grew up in a house of violence with my stepdad, and all it made me was petrified of him. I didn't respect him. I didn't learn from that. I don't think it helped me be a better person. If anything, it just showed me what I didn't want to do as a parent. So I am grateful for that, but I more want to have an open conversation and teach Taj to feel his emotions, not shut him down with a smack around the head or on the ass. I want to sit you down. If you need to cry for 15 minutes, get that out. Now let's take some big breaths and talk about how you're feeling. Like, especially as a little boy, there's not enough space for men to be vulnerable and talk about what they're going through. They're told to stop being a pussy, don't cry, be a man, step up, like cry baby. And it's not what I want for Taj. I want him to talk. And only the last couple of years, Steve's really amazingly is vulnerable now and can talk about how he's feeling. But before that, it was really hard to connect and communicate because he was so shut off and had to step up and be a man at the age of 15 when he left home, that only recently we've really started to talk about and heal some things. And it's really created depth and passion and a really nice connection between us. But that's my view on it anyway.
Imagine a child is not set in stone. This is where parents really get tripped up. We do as human beings, we see the child and then we relay a story about the child and who they are. So as they grow, we forget that we relay a story of 3, 4, 5, and then we keep relating to them to that story. We see lots of parents who are now 80 talking to their 45-year-old kid like they're 5 again. So what happens? What happens is we need to keep updating the stories that we tell of our children so that our relationship to them grows as they grow. Kids are the most dynamic, ever-changing systems because their identity isn't formed until they're like 24. So they're always changing and moving and flowing. Because we're adults, we get set in our neurology. We then think, hey, this is who you are. But if we keep updating as they grow, observing, then the conversations with them get richer because we're learning to be with them rather than trying to dictate to them how they should be. We put boundaries in so they cross the road and don't get hurt, and they do those things that keep them safe, yes. But then as they're growing, we learn to communicate to them in updated ways as they're developing so that as their relationships to us grow, they grow themselves. Because me and Kate want our kids to be free of us when they leave.
Yeah, we want them to.
We want them to be free and expressive and joyful.
As the kids have got progressively older, I've found that it's been less kind of discipline and boundaries, more hands-off as they've gotten older and more conversational. Mm-hmm. And so, like, for example, Bailey's 17 now. For the last couple of years, I don't even remember a moment when she's even been disciplined in the last couple of years because we want her, when she leaves home, to be so damn equipped with a voice, with great decision making, with all of these skills that you don't get if you've got a helicopter parent. You know, you can't be a fabulous decision maker if you've had someone else making decisions for you. So, you know, very early on, we pulled back a lot of that kind of hands-on parenting with Bailey and went more hands-off and conversational. And yeah, she's had to have her own natural consequences through things. And I think natural consequences are the best kind of boundaries for kids, but it's age appropriate and it's like situation appropriate. Yep. And so, you know, like Bailey, she's 17, she's super equipped. She's just ready to go now out into the world because she's had such big decisions that she's made on her own. And then in terms of like actual discipline, you know, our son's just finished being grounded for a week, no electronics, but you know, that was just like and I think one thing that I've learned with the disciplining when it actually does need to be in is just like to try and remove emotion from our end as much as possible. Like you have to take your own emotion out of it and kind of like even like try as much. This is often my kind of goal, is to not have like the look on my face as if they've done something wrong, you know, like the whole scowl, because I don't want to be disciplining through like any level of shame. It's just, well, actually, no, I don't like you doing that to me or saying that to me, so I'm actually going to remove that as a consequence. I'm installing my own consequence because that's almost like a boundary on how I want you to treat me. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I love that. So hard, but I love it. Yes. Challenging.
And I really love the idea of all the pre-framing that letting the child have form their own identity and also their own, be a consequence for their own actions. So you're not creating dependent children who can't think for themselves. And I mean that is so powerful.
Something I'm definitely more learning from Steve. I feel like I naturally, instinctively, I want to control and wrap him in cotton wool and like help make his decisions. But logically, I know that's not the way I want to parent, but it's something
But he is 3 right now, so
yeah. But we often have that conversation because I feel like I need to keep talking about it to learn about it more and get more tools around my belt to be the best mum I can be and not be that parent because I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Can I say one of the things I learned is, and this is out of left field, because I think I've spent about nearly $1 million on personal development. You name it, I've talked to them or got coached by them. From Eckhart Tolle to Brendan Bouchard, I've sat with them, interviewed them. What I learned through the process of being with these people, is a lot of these people that we're looking to as our heroes are quite flawed. We're living in a world now where knowledge isn't the prerequisite thing of like more skills. Because in interviewing a lot of these people, seeing them, I noticed that behind the scenes, many of them were just as human as a normal person. They were living into the knowledge that they thought they needed to present to the world, which everyone liked. But when I spoke to them pre-interview, post-interview, sat with them, drank with them, you would be surprised that they were normal human beings.
Yeah.
I think one of the things in the world now is don't get too much knowledge. Trust that there is something that wants to be coming through you that can be done without reading a book.
Yeah.
Because what happens is after all that, I think I spent $1 million traveling over 10 years. I still was depressed in my bed. When I still had to go through that, I couldn't stop that learning come through.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
All of the coaching, getting an SAS soldier to do something to reverse his engineering so that he could be a more loving husband, that was powerful to get people to stop committing suicide in an event. Man, I'm so great to coach celebrities and sports stars and international coaches. Holy shit, Henare, you've made it from Flaxmere. Now you're earning $25,000 per client. You're fucking the man. And then, with all that knowledge, I ended up in the bed. What I say is, when the learning comes, we've got to be prepared that we're not going to be prepared at times.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you're trying to prepare to be prepared for everything, you'll fail, or you'll try to stop failure more often than not.
True, hey.
It's getting used to being uncomfortable, isn't it? I think personal development. It's you can sit there and think you're learning, but if you're not willing to sit there and get icky with the
lean
feelings
into it,
and lean into that fear and
That's so true. Before we keep going, because I feel like we could talk for hours, I'm just loving this conversation, but we have to ask the question. Through your relationship, through all the ups and downs, through all the struggles, through the times where you felt like it was falling apart to super connected, what is your biggest life lesson in relationships?
Yeah, so I was in a podcast with Marston Kipp, who's a guy who was involved with Oprah and did all this cool stuff. And he asked me the same question, and I said to him, I can't answer that because I'm still developing in the relationship. So my biggest learning is that, my answer is that I'm still learning to be in a relationship consistently. Once I say that I've learned something that I'm finished with, then I think I'll get stuck. So my biggest learning is to continually learn how to be with Kate in this new world and show up for her in ways that have her more inspired and lit up by who she is. And I don't really know how that is going to look day to day, but I pray sometimes that I have the strength to be the best man for her.
Love that. So to continually grow and be open and sit with it all together and as an individual. Love that.
Mine's a me-centric answer. This one's all about me. In this relationship, I have learned who I am, for sure. We came together and we had like the most perfect combination pad of who pushed each other's buttons. And so I literally in this relationship had to go through a lot of my own kind of conditioning to stand up and be the woman that I am in the earlier years. And then over time, as I've kept growing and what we just talked about, that kind of the up and down journey as we've grown, to be able to grow and stand at my full height, metaphorically, and not cower down to try and make things feel okay when I'm perhaps growing faster has been just so strengthening for me, because if I can stand at my full height when the person who I most love on this planet is going through what he's going through, and I can have love and compassion but still stand on my full height. I can do it with anyone. And I know for me personally, part of my patterning has been I've created rapport with people by making myself smaller. And I've been masterful at creating rapport with anyone, and even physically, like my shoulders go forward. And so, to be able to stand at my full height has been so strengthening. So I'd say through this relationship, it's been the perfectly designed relationship for me to know who I am at my fullest capacity.
Life happens for you, not to you, huh? It's there's no doubt that you two are meant for each other, and you can see that you're the yin to the yang, and you've both complemented each other so well, and it's giving you the platform to be able to really explore life, and yeah, I think it's just really inspirational what you guys are doing.
It's really beautiful to see another couple just be so open to go on that journey together and navigate through it all, because there's so many challenges that you go through every season, and there's many more to come. So there's many more to navigate through, but if you're both open to go through that together, it's a really beautiful thing that I think a lot of couples can really
dance really well. You dance really well.
You do dance really well. And just hopefully this conversation will open up our audience to reach out more and be more open to open conversations with their partner to step up together. Thank you so much for joining us today. This was absolutely awesome. And I know it's a topic, relationships, everyone wants to hear about more. Not enough people are talking about it. And I think everyone's going to be like, oh, aha, like lots of aha moments. So yeah, really appreciate your time. So thank you so much for joining us.
See ya. Bye.
Thanks for listening, guys. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the Lessons Podcast. And remember, we'd love to hear from you. So please jump on over to our Lessons Podcast Insta page to tell us what you think. Don't forget to join us on the Lessons Podcast next week for another inspiring guest and fantastic life lesson. If you think you've got a lesson to share, we'd love to hear from you. Hit the link in the description box to get in touch. Bye!